Story 1. If she starts a story with "back in my day," you better get comfortable because you're in for a long ride. Story 2. My grandmother moved in with my father and me after my parents divorced. She never pressured me to talk about my feelings. She was simply there for me. She taught me the importance of being present for others and showing them they are loved. Story 3. My great-grandmother always encouraged me to get a good job and establish my own pension so that I would not have to rely on anyone for the rest of my life. I wanted to be able to take care of myself. I did exactly what she advised. I love my grandma. Story 4. How to make homemade Yorkshire puddings. Every time I make them, I remember a specific occasion when we prepared them together. Story 5. If someone offers help and you need it, accept it. She paid to have 6 of my front teeth fixed because I couldn't afford it, and they were rotting away. A dentist failed to inform me that I needed to clean my retainer like dentures, leading to an infection in my mouth for years that damaged my enamel. Her actions saved my remaining teeth and allowed me to smile again. It was a part of my inheritance from her. Bless her soul. Story 6. Being related to someone doesn't guarantee they will ever say anything nice to you. Story 7. She could make you cry just by calling you on the phone. My mom had to raise 5 of us by herself. And if we acted up, all she had to say was, "Do you want me to call Grandma?" I learned from the best. She would speak in a low voice so you had to pay attention to what she was saying, and she would tell you what a bad person you were. When I did it, I would also talk in a low voice and explain what I was going to do to them without any emotion. I think it scared them. Story 8. To have patience cooking Sunday gravy. Also, she told me that my grandparents were married for over 60 years. You always have to remember the bed you made. You lie in it and wake up from it. Story 9. If someone offers you a breath mint, take it. Later, I understand that to mean literally, figuratively, or metaphorically. That person may just need your breath to be better to continue enjoying your company. Or perhaps there is a minor thing about you that bothers them, which is easy for you to change to maintain the relationship. They may also be giving you a second chance while explaining what went wrong the first time. Take that breath mint, thank your friend, and move forward. Story 10. My grandmother would take me on walks through the woods and point out where a deer slept, teaching me about flowers, plants, birds, and trees. I miss her all the time. Story 11. You can be an evil stepmother and a fairy grandmother at the same time. It was formative to see how personality is influenced by expectation, history, and intention. My grandmother was incredibly important to me. I am thankful my mother let me visit her, even though they hated each other. Story 12. I before E, except after C, or when sounding like A, as in neighbor or way. Grandma was an English teacher. Story 13. I never got to meet them, but my mom tells me stories about what she would say to her and how my mom regrets not taking her advice more seriously. I feel like I am naturally embracing that essence. Feels special. Story 14. Learned behavior. She was treated poorly by her children, and guess what? Her children are treated poorly by their children. Story 15. When my family asked me about not wanting to have children, she validated my decision. She taught me that I don't need to explain myself to anyone. Story 16. My late grandmother from my mother's side had never been a traditional wife and mother. She didn't cook well, she didn't manage finances effectively, and she didn't take care of her children as well as her husband. However, she was the heart of the family because she knew how to communicate affectionately and kept everyone together. That's what I learned from her. Story 17. She nurtured my love for exploring the inside of things. I recently posted about her showing me where she hid her gold teeth and bridges during her battle with oral cancer. As a child, she revealed this to me, and I found them in college exactly where she said they would be, hidden in the bottom of a gift box inside a built-in cabinet that had stationery on top. She also passed this passion onto her daughter, my late aunt. When my aunt would come across a good estate sale, she would buy wooden boxes filled with buttons, costume jewelry, broken earrings, cufflinks, and other items. She would wait for me to visit so I could open the boxes and explore their contents. I rarely asked for anything inside, but the joy of discovery was priceless. Story 18. Inside your microwave tells a lot about your cleaning skills. I wipe it out about 20 times a week now. Story 19. After I learned the truth about Santa, every Christmas we wrapped everyone's gifts, including my family's and my aunt's. It was our tradition. We played old black and white movies, and it meant a lot to me. I still put a lot of effort into every gift I give, and I always appreciate receiving a nicely wrapped gift. Story 20. She helped me learn to read a clock. She taught me to read by reading the comics in the newspapers. She assists us every year when we can foods from our garden. Truly, she is a wonderful lady, and I am so fortunate that my daughter is growing up knowing and loving her. Story 21. How to sew. She was an amazing seamstress and had so much patience showing me what she was doing. She had an old Singer sewing machine, and I would push the pedal on the ground for her. She made my mother's wedding dress, and if we had a party to attend, we got a new dress. She lived with us, and her sewing machine was set up in her room. I would sit on her bed asking countless questions, and she would answer them all. Story 22. Putting effort into a nice meal or evening with your loved ones pays off. Set the scene for connection and enjoy time with your family and friends. Good snacks, a comfortable environment, and positive vibes are essential. My grandmother was a master of creating a welcoming atmosphere, and I miss her dearly. Story 23. Never assume that you're not one of those families prone to financial betrayals following someone's death. Story 24. How to roll my own cigarette. My great-grandmother taught me at 7 or 8 years old to roll loose tobacco in a roller. Fast forward to 15, I surprised a group of friends by rolling a nearly perfect joint on my first attempt. Story 25. She taught me the importance of helping those in need. This lesson greatly impacted me and shaped my worldview and political beliefs. Her home became a welcoming space for the children in the neighborhood. Although it wasn't the best neighborhood, with many struggling families and high unemployment, she consistently welcomed the children and provided them with meals. Despite her own limited resources, she acted out of the goodness of her heart. Story 26. Don't associate with gay people. Unfortunately, she was a little late on that front because I was already gay. Story 27. You say, please and thank you, and do your homework, or you won't get any dinner. You write a thank you letter for the Christmas gift, or you won't receive another next year. If she cooks, you clean. Do it the way she instructed you the first time, and you won't have to do it again later. Story 28. How to make an Easter cake shaped like a bunny with coconut for the fur, large jelly beans for the eyes, and thin licorice ropes for the whiskers. Story 29. When walking with a woman on the sidewalk, a man should always take the position closest to the street and carry a handkerchief. Story 30. Nanny taught me to be a nice person. Lena taught me to love every child, especially if they are not yours. And Grandmama taught me not to mix lithium with white wine. Story 31. Honestly, my grandfather taught me the importance of showing up for others. He was always there to help us when we needed it. He was also a Southern Baptist and held none of the hateful ideals often discussed today. He was genuinely kind to everyone. Additionally, he never smoked a cigarette in his life, which was almost unheard of during that time. He always cooked Sunday supper and served it at 3 p.m., typically a roast or ham. It was a nice tradition. Story 32. How to read and write. I was very sick in second grade and missed a lot of school. A retired school teacher taught me a great deal to help me keep up with my studies. Story 33. How to play high-low jack and her pasta sauce and meatball recipe. The recipe is written, but it's the same idea. Story 34. Respect your elders, and to this day I respect them. Not necessarily because it's right, but because I'm afraid Nana might be behind me and hit me over the head with her sandal. Love you, Nana. Story 35. Not directly, but she used to save fruit under her mattress. She was 104 when she did this. She inadvertently taught me not to save fruit there. Story 36. My grandmother was blunt and told hard truths. She didn't care if what she said hurt you. Unlike some people who conceal their rudeness, what she communicated was usually honest. For example, if I wore a dress that didn't fit me well, she would tell me directly, whereas my mother would say I looked nice and perhaps suggest wearing a big coat. I appreciate that harsh honesty. Now, I feel I have the same attitude as her. With family and sometimes friends, not strangers, as I don't need to know them, I will speak the truth when necessary. Some people's delusional bubbles need to be burst. Story 37. She taught me that after you make your biscuit dough and pull off individual biscuits from the dough, you should dip the top of each biscuit in melted, warm bacon grease before placing them in the oven. When they are done, they are absolutely heavenly. I miss my grandma so much. Story 38. To not take yourself seriously. She is 96 years old and still makes herself laugh when she does something silly. I am convinced it is the secret to her longevity. Story 39. If God wanted everybody to mix races, he wouldn't have made separate races. Even at 8, that really bothered me. Grandma and I had a falling out over our fundamental differences when I became an adult, and we no longer speak. Story 40. Where to hide cash in the house. She was a child of the Great Depression. She kept cash all over the house. When you visited, she would always say, "Here's a little something before you leave." Sometimes she would open the freezer, and under a 1-gallon pail of vanilla ice cream, she would hand you 3 cold $20 bills. When she passed away, my dad told my brother and me to search for cash. We split the $500 in $20 bills we found throughout the house. Story 41. I didn't have a close relationship with either grandmother, but based on witnessing their behavior, hearing stories, and observing my parents, I learned paternal grandmother. Favoritism and yelling at children for things they never did were normal, resulting in one child, my father, being outcast and building a relationship only with his father. He turned out to be the only decent person among the children. Maternal grandmother. You can achieve anything you set your mind to. My grandfather died unexpectedly only months after their youngest child was born. The youngest is child number 13, and my mother is child number 11, and never remarried. She became a nurse while raising 13 children ranging from newborn to early driving age. She was very determined, but she made it work. Story 42. If you have a problem that can be solved by making a phone call and writing a check, do not worry about it. It is not a real problem. Story 43. She taught me how to crochet, how to quilt, and how to embroider. She also taught me how to make gravy, fry chicken, and pickle cucumbers. Additionally, she taught me how to drive a tractor. Story 44. You must look nice if you're going uptown. As a mother of 3 boys, I think she also secretly wanted an excuse to curl and put ribbons in my sisters and my hair and do girly things. Choose a man who loves you just a little bit more than you love him. There are many little British expressions that I can't recall at the moment. Story 45. My grandmother was born in the 1890s. In the early 1980s, I said, "I guess you remember when Huntington, West Virginia, didn't have as many cars as it does today." She replied, "I remember when Huntington didn't have many roads." Story 46. Simple pleasantries like offering another person a cup of tea or snack while making one for yourself are important. I married the woman who shared this simple quality. We will be celebrating 18 years this year. Story 47. She taught me how to love, to look past people's flaws and differences, and to love them as fellow humans. Story 48. I never had a grandmother or a great-grandmother. Both of my parents lost their mothers before they were 15. My poor mother was only 12. Story 49. Dinner food does not have to be traditional or conventional. Dinner can consist of whatever you feel like eating, and you can enjoy a snack whenever you desire. Story 50. She told me once, envy is one of the most dangerous things in the world. I thought at first, sure, it's bad, but there must be worse things. Now I realize envy is essentially a fragile ego filled with hatred. And that is rising more and more among today's world leaders. Story 51. Always assume that any body of water that can hide an alligator is hiding an alligator. First, I thought she was being metaphorical, but she meant it literally. She grew up in alligator country and mentioned that she had lost a couple of dogs as a child to them. Story 52. She gave me her love of reading. My grandmother was a nurse, and she told me when I was very young, don't be unkind to nurses. Be kind and helpful. Because if you're unkind to a nurse, they'll make you regret it. Nurses really appreciate me. Edit, context, and the best gift I received from her. Story 53. My grandma always said how important it is to be independent and to never depend on anyone but yourself. Story 54. What her handful looks like. I'm the only one who can accurately replicate her recipes because we have the same sized hands. Story 55. My grandfather, not my grandmother, taught me that you should never call someone a cheat, even jokingly, when playing games. You can say they got lucky, but not that they cheated unless you have proof, as they may not want to play with you afterward. I was around 9 years old at the time. Story 56. The luxury of choice. My grandma did not get to choose the man she married. She did not get to choose the timing, spacing, or number of children she had. She did not choose whether she worked outside the home or the amount of domestic work she had to do. Currently, I have nearly all those choices. She marvels at how different my life is and how much freedom and control I have over my own life. Story 57. To make your lettuces and leafy greens last longer, wrap them in a bit of paper towel. Whether you use a resealable bag or wrap it in foil, it will last significantly longer. Story 58. It's better not to say something you'll regret because, while you may forget it, the person you said it to won't. Story 59. How to make a bed so a quarter would bounce off of it and how to have a military washdown. She was British and forgot I was her granddaughter. Then I learned many things. Story 60. My grandmother taught me how to play the card game War. I always wanted to play cards with her, but I could never understand the rules of the games. So she taught me the easiest card game known to man. Even though I knew she was bored out of her mind, she would play war with me nonstop for hours while we ate peanut M&Ms. Story 61. How to pick a good watermelon at the grocery store. When she stopped driving, I would take her to the grocery store. Every time, she made sure to ask the only black employee in the produce section for advice on how to choose a good watermelon, as she believed he would know best. Story 62. If you find them in a bar, leave them in the bar. The grass may be greener, but both lawns have to be mowed. Story 63. My grandmother told me that when I was thinking of marrying someone, I should think about him as if he were a dress I was buying, one that I would have to wear every day until I died. Story 64. Everyone deserves the same basic human decency, regardless of age, sex, gender, race, creed, religion, or occupation. Story 65. A dad is a dad, but a mom is a mom. As I've gotten older and had children of my own, this resonates more with me. Sure, my husband loves the kids, but I carried them in my body and gave birth to them. There is something special about that bond. Story 66. It is usually best to keep your personal business to yourself. Be kind, giving, and friendly, but do not air your laundry for the world to see unless they are in your inner circle and have earned your trust. Story 67. Money comes and goes. Some days you will have it and some days you won't. If you need it, it's out there, you just have to work for it. Story 68. My paternal grandmother taught me what it is like to love unconditionally, blindly, and against all odds. My maternal grandmother taught me how to be loved and to accept and welcome love. Story 69. If you're having a bad day and are upset or angry, just go out into the woods and scream, yell, or cry as loud as you want. No one will hear it, and you'll feel better afterward for being able to get it all out. She was always really good at giving advice in general and would never judge. I miss her so much. Story 70. How people argue determines how long their relationships will last. If individuals say hurtful things to each other or try to outdo one another in meanness, they won't endure. Everyone argues, so it is important to learn to argue respectfully. Story 71. She made me eat my meals with books tucked under my arms, so I learned to eat politely by keeping my elbows tucked in. This also meant I could not put my elbows on the table. Story 72. She told me I don't need to prove anything to her, my dad, or anyone else. She encouraged me to go out and live my best life and to do my best because I can. I shouldn't live trying to be something or someone for someone else. I've had a rough life. My family and extended family never liked me and always put me down, saying I think I'm better than them. I wanted to leave and show them all, but I listened to my grandma and instead focused on living my own life. Story 73. She taught me how to work hard. And to this day, this habit is instilled in me not just in studying but in every aspect of my life. She passed away 10 years ago, but I still miss her. I wanted to know so many more things from her that only she knew. Story 74. Don't be too sad when I die. I am ready, and I will reunite with Grandpa. She died a few months later, and this has helped me a lot in easing the pain of losing her. Story 75. When an 85-year-old woman with 9 children tells you to go cut a switch, that means you have made a mistake. If you bring back something you think won't hurt, that is another mistake. If you think an 85-year-old woman isn't capable of inflicting real pain, your lack of understanding of muscle memory is a further mistake. Story 76. The faster I go, the further behind I get. She had that saying in the kitchen, and I asked her about it. She explained its meaning to me, and it's so true. Story 77. What commitment means is not just to each other as a family, but also to your work, to those around you, and to anything you take on in life. Do not slack off thinking it's acceptable to complete tasks with minimal effort. Instead, take the time and put in the effort to ensure that you have truly given your best. Story 78. My grandmother was bitter and struggled with alcohol. She taught me, through her example, how not to be. Story 79. Dutch people ate tulip bulbs during World War II because food was scarce. She was Dutch and met my grandfather when he was stationed there. She also taught me that sugar sandwiches are perfectly acceptable and quite common in the Netherlands. I particularly enjoy embracing that part of my heritage, including Dutch cheeses. Story 80. She always said, "Never go to the intersection without a condominium." Then she would giggle and laugh, but she remembered this 30 years later. Story 81. When you are in love with someone, you do not see all the issues that may be present in them. Story 82. Respect those who are older than you, or they will make you retrieve a switch from the whooping tree and leave you in discomfort. They will give you another if the first one is too small. Do not let anger take center stage in your heart. Story 83. She taught me how to bake a homemade apple pie and how to make my own crust from scratch. Thank you, Grandma. Story 84. You can chew as much ice as you want if you have dentures. When she popped those teeth out, I nearly lost my mind. I was about 6 years old. Story 85. Women can be loud and opinionated. My grandma was born in the 1930s. One of her biggest goals was to teach her granddaughters to stand up for themselves. May she rest in peace. Story 86. I used to live with her for a few months. A few years ago, a guy offered me a perfume called Volume 1. She asked where Volume 2 was, and that's when I realized I didn't care about her life lessons. During our last conversation, she said that rich people can do whatever they want because they are rich and deserve it. I feel she only wanted to be sassy and mean because it's easy, using her age as an excuse. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.